Hello, everyone. We're going to start the meeting in 5 minutes.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Recording in progress.
I think we should start. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
That's great. So welcome, everyone, to this fourth day of meeting. I would like to welcome all the experts and all the assistants who are honoring us in our fourth day of this amazing Congress. We are celebrating the World Metropolitan Day. But before that, let me introduce myself. My name is Yasmin. I am a civil and railway transport engineer. I work at the government of Algeria since 2015. And now let me take you in a flashback about what we saw previously in the previous sessions, So in day one, actually it was day zero. So in day zero, we saw introduction about the followers. It was the IMF metropolitan chapters. In day one, we saw the transforming of the metropolitan discipline. In day two, we had an idea about different metropolitan sectors. In day 3, we saw some metro case studies like Santa Cruz, Nairobi, Kiev, etc. And today is gonna be day 4, and it will be a brain shop. What is a brain shop? Brain shop, it's a tool to discuss and to find solutions to the metropolitan needs. So I hope we will enjoy this meeting. I am Yasmin. I'm gonna be your moderator. And I think we can start by seeing or watching a short video. It's about 3 minutes video we are going to see now. Hello. I think we finished our introduction video. And to start the discussion, I would like to welcome Mr. Piyush, and I will introduce him briefly. Mr. Piyush is a postgraduate urban planner from New Delhi, India. He is currently working in the Parliament of India as a senior policy and research associate. He happens to be the founder of an international idea exchange platform, Planogram, and currently leads the Indian chapter of the IMF. A part of his research works, Mr. Piyush regularly contributes in India's print media about relevant urban and metropolitan issues. Mr. Piyush, are you here?
Yeah, I'm pretty much here. Thank you, Yasmin, for a wonderful introduction. What a pleasure it is to be here among you all for the day 4 of the International Metropolitan Congress, which is an extension of the International Metropolitan Day, and a wonderful platform the International Metropolitan Fellowship provides to everyone. So before I start, I wish you all a very happy Diwali, which is a prominent festival in India. I hope you all have a great year ahead. So I'll begin with my presentation. Can the host allow me to share my screen, please? It is disabled. Um,
Of course.
I request the host to allow my...
Lama, can you share the screen?
Mark, can you help us, please?
The host has to enable the participants to share their screens.
You're already a co-host.
The dialog box shows host disable participant screen sharing.
Okay, I don't know why it doesn't show.
You have to go into the settings. The host has to go into the settings.
It doesn't show the. Lama, would you mind sharing his presentation? It doesn't show the.
I don't have it. Piyush, if you can.
I will.
send it to
Yeah,
us.
I will share it. There's an option of. All right. I don't know why it's a weird situation. I'm sharing my presentation right away, Lama.
Mark, Pius is not the
Yeah, I
co-host.
don't. It doesn't show. I don't know why it doesn't show. It can be a co-host. Maybe Piyush, you can try.
I've sent the thing to Lama. There is an
Okay.
option, Mr. Mark, in the
No, I
participants
know.
list to, yeah.
I know about that. It doesn't
Yeah.
show.
All right, no
clicking your
problem.
name. Yeah.
I've shared it with you, Lama. Could you please share the screen so that we can kickstart?
Where you?
I've emailed you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just a minute. I don't receive it.
Strange thing.
On WhatsApp or Gmail?
Okay, Piyush, I figured it out. Sorry about that. Yeah, you can share your screen. Piyush? Hello?
You are mute.
There. Yep. Sorry about
Yeah.
that. Okay.
No problem. Is my presentation visible?
Yes.
Just a minute. I hope my presentation is visible.
Yes, Mr. Piyush.
Yeah. All right. Just a minute. I don't know why this dialog box is not going down. It's a very stupid thing, this Zoom. Anyway, so yeah, basically, I would just give a brief introduction about what is the Brainshop and what was it about. First of all, I would like to state to everyone that it's the 75th independent year of India. So we are celebrating a 75th, what do we call as an Amrit Mahotsav of the Indian independence. So my greetings go to all. So the Bhubaneswar Brainshop was basically organized in collaboration with the India-EU Urban Partnership, the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs of Government of India, as well as the Bhubaneswar Municipal Corporation and the European Union. So I was very fortunate to be a part of it and to lead one of the teams, that is the housing teams. This is a typical Indian temple that we can easily see in any of the Indian cities, but it's a speciality of the city, Bhubaneswar. Well, before I move into the presentation, I would like to give a small disclaimer that as Bhubaneswar is an emerging metropolis and it has different centralities around it, we can call it an Odisha metropolis than just a Bhubaneswar metropolis because it has 2 to 3 major important cities around it. So this is basic introduction about Bhubaneswar that that the Bhubaneswar is like an emerging metropolis. Like I said, it falls upon the east coast of the India, as well as it is strategically located on a port, full-fledged port. It is the capital of the state of Odisha in India, and like I said, it has a few centralities around it, like Cuttack, etc. I'm sorry. Okay. So the population of Bhubaneswar is just 0.95 millions, and it's an emerging metropolis, like it has been mentioned. Only around 20 kilometers, we can have the city of Cuttack, which used to be the earlier metropolis of the Odisha state. The problem with Bhubaneswar is that it is not in a privileged position. It doesn't enjoy the geographical advantages. It is too far north from the prominent port of Chennai of India, which from where the world trade routes follow towards Europe and China. And it is a little too close to the city of Kolkata, which is located around here, to compete on the trade between India and China. Now I come to the directionalities. I have like the Brainshops, I have just put my presentation in different sectors. So first is the directionalities. If we take a look at the map of the Bhubaneswar or the Indian coast, for that matter, we can find that Bhubaneswar is located here. And is my pointer visible? Can somebody please tell?
Yes, yes.
Sure. So here is the city of Bhubaneswar, and here's the city of Cuttack. So combining them, if we see at the directionalities of the Odisha metropolis, both the generatrix as well as the directrix in Odisha metropolis formulate a very interesting shape, which leads to the territorial strength lines that have been reflected by the inherited infrastructure, which is just like this. And since it is too close to the coast, we can see there is a very important as well as a very interesting train route as well that connects almost important centralities that are around Bhubaneswar. But if we take a closer look at the other centralities that fall in between this Odisha metropolis, where Bhubaneswar is having around 0.95 million of population, and the Cuttack is having around 0.6 million population, and the distance being 20 kilometer, it has around 6 train stations in between, or that can be proposed. The 6 train stations could be proposed with 3 kilometers of distance in between. So this is the basic or the basic or fundamental structure of the Odisha metropolis, from which we can have the physical structure or the physical structure of Odisha. Now moving to So moving to the environment part of the Odisha, which is the first sector that we may call it. This is the environmental hazards map. As we all know that it falls on the coastal part. It has certain coastal regulatory zones as well as some restrictions and some eco-sensitive zones. So the parts depicted in orange showcase the hazardous in terms of environment, and the blue being the coastal regulatory zone. If we take a closer look at the the terrain of this particular metropolis, Odisha metropolis, we have a proper scope for promoting continuous blue and green corridors, because there are a lot of rivers that match or that merge with the sea. They continuously flow from west to east, and they formulate a very good connection of rivers, streams, and sea. So there's a good scope for promoting a continuous blue and green corridors, which was extensively discussed in the Brainshops. And then as it is one of the most spiritual as well as heritage oriented cities, Bhubaneswar, Cuttack, and Puri, there's a strong tourism potential in this metropolis. That's why even the potential tourist paths were also discussed. If we take a closer look at the different corridors, green corridors or the blue corridors or even water corridors, we can have a proper green corridor like that, and a green water corridor being like this, and the green corridor being like this. If we discuss in detail about different corridors or different zones that could be adopted, one of those prominent zones could be the blue zone, necessarily associated with water, and then it can formulate a water corridor. After that, we have to be a little bit conscious about the tourism, but the eco-friendly or the environmental sides of tourism. So it formulates the eco tourism belt, and again it gives rise to the green corridor. So this is the basic structure or basic understanding of the participants that participated in the Bhubaneswar Brainshop, the details of which are in the comprehensive report, which is available on the relevant sites. As I was told that the presentation has to be kept very crispy, so I have just put very important points and not gone into too much of details, as it is all about giving ideas than just bombarding figures. Now we come to the Odisha's transport sector. Like I had mentioned, it is a metropolis which is consisting of various urban systems. So most prominent urban systems, if we put them in a line, or if we take a look at them in a sort of a mental map or a structural map, then it is very obvious that there has to be a connecting line in between these centralities, be it the Bhubaneswar or the Cuttack or even the Bagamari or Jatni, which are the different centralities. Now, there are a few issues in the transport system, existing transport system of Odisha. One of the most prominent being it is a concentrated, although it is a connected urban nuclei, but it is having a necessary feature of concentrated economic activities. It is also having the ineffective use of the existing rail system, which is not efficiently connecting the various urban centralities, where the population, does to and fro for work as well as for home. And there is a stringent need for the expansion of the port as well as the existing airport. If we talk about the solutions, there were majorly three solutions that were discussed in the Brainshop and also proposed. First was the efficient commuter rail system. If we see, there is a like 0.95 million population residing in this metropolis, 0.6 residing in a city, and this 0.6 in this city. If we carefully take a look at the connection between the different centralities, there's a huge scope for promoting a rail system that will actually balance the overall to and fro in the metropolis. So around in the belt of 20 kilometers, a total of 6 train stations could be proposed, with a distance of 3 kilometers between them, and a high-speed railway network could be set up so that the population that is necessarily involved in a workforce or the other types of economic activities has the ease of moving, as well as this everything becomes seamless. So this was about the transport sector. Now we come to the social facilities. The social facilities in the Odisha metropolis have to be looked at the district level. The district is a fundamental unit in India's national planning. If you take a closer look at the way the policies are formed by the Premier Policy and Planning Institution of India, the Niti Aayog, the fundamental unit of planning is district. So the educational and medical facilities, I have not included the sports facilities, otherwise it would have been too much of a detail discussion. But the educational facilities and the medical facilities have been distributed across the district like this. Now, if we take a closer look at the issues, we can easily figure out that the distribution of different universities or institutes are too concentrated. They are around Bhubaneswar, major city. They are around Cuttack, the second largest city, and they are around Puri, which is the third largest city. So non-uniform distribution is definitely one of the issues. And as we had discussed, the rail connectivity is ineffective. So it also hampers the accessibility towards these medical as well as educational facilities. There's a limited approach to the serving areas, and there are constraints from terrain, like there are low-lying areas or there are coastal areas. So a comprehensive proposal was made by the social facilities team that was involved in the Odisha Brainshop, where they had proposed a sort of lookout of the Odisha metropolis, where a comprehensive calculation was done of the per capita facilities demand, and the distribution of facilities is done in accordance with the existing railway network as well as proposed railway network, the eco-sensitive zones, and the other facilities or proposed, such as the industries or even the directional centers or intermediate centers. So we can see that a belt has been prepared thrice, once like this, and then two rectangular shapes are proposed, and they cover the entire centralities, not just Bhubaneswar, Cuttack, and Puri. They, in fact, decentralize the provision of facilities so that the region is balanced, the metropolis or the territory is balanced. If we take a look at the productive facilities, or the popular word for that in India is industrial facilities, the shape comes out like something like this. We can call it a five finger or a palm, or something like that, a fancy word. But the different contributors to the economy have been denoted in the blue, which are the economic zone centralities. Again, we can see the nucleus of this metropolis being formulated by the cities of Bhubaneswar and Cuttack, where the majority of economic activities take place. And on the lines of the development corridors as well as the potential economic zones were derived, where we can see there's a proper shape to the economic activities, where there's a decentralization, as well as if we compare that with the different calculations or calculus, such as the GPDP, the GDP, or even in terms the total economic activity as well as the per capita NDDP, it again depicts towards a balance for an emerging metropolis, which is very much needed. If we take a look at the GDP distribution, we can easily figure out that there's a huge potential for industrial development in terms of accommodating the work population within the metropolis so that it doesn't migrate towards others. If you take a look at the different facilities that are around the Odisha metropolis, one of the prominent things that was discussed was the expansion of the freight airport. Uh, Although Odisha has been gifted with a very prominent port and it enjoys a good coastal distance, it has to have a very prudent and a prominent airport where a lot of activities, apart from the tourist activities, can be accommodated very suitably. So a proper expansion of the freight airport was proposed, where it is in accordance or synergy with the industrial free zone, as well as the airport city, the terminal of the airport, as well as the other aspects of the metropolis, such as the eco-sensitive zones, the population, and other associated transport network. If we take a closer look, there is this Bhubaneswar Central Station is here, and the monorail is proposed. Triple airport access network has also been provided, which again is in synergy with the East Coast National Highway, which again is one of the major growth drivers. And then a few activities have been proposed, the industrial free zone. And one of the wonderful things that was a part of this brain shop was the disaster management was taken, disaster or the risk reduction factor was also taken into consideration. We can see there is a proper delineation of the floodplain that is there, as Bhubaneswar is at a risk of the disasters. Well, the housing part of Odisha metropolis is necessarily about the population, its growth, the locations of different centralities, and the need of housing, and again, the availability of land. These were different aspects that were there. And first of all, the analysis of the demand typology segments in accordance with the per capita income was done, where there is like 38% of inexistent demand was calculated. And if we take a closer look, around 17.20% people are of those who have the real demand, who need government's support for their own shelter. So we formulated two different approaches, one being the strategic approach, where a lot of things that were necessarily related to the decongestion of Bhubaneswar, or that is in accordance with the railway stations and commuter facilities, or even the land prices were taken into consideration. All those aspects which actually give us a scope for formulating a strategic housing policy for the entire metropolis was taken into consideration, and the housing was allotted across these centralities. And again, it was as I said, it was put in synergy with the intermodal commuter train. And in the do nothing approach, which again was a feature of this particular housing practice, that in the do nothing approach, just like the population growth, we propose the housing, and a few issues came up, like there is high unaffordability in Bhubaneswar and Cuttack because of the higher housing prices. And the higher housing prices lead to one's inconfidence in buying, or inconfidence and incompetence in buying her or his legal house. So there's a slum dwelling, which again curbs the growth of the metropolis and as well as the quality of living of the metropolis. So to attain the balanced growth of the metropolis, various centers that are there is this Khordha or Jatni or even Denkanal or even Kendrapada are the centralities that need to be developed, so that there is no formulation of slums in the major centralities because of the unaffordability of the houses, as well as to facilitate the planned urban development. The strategic distribution of this housing is very necessary in synergy with the transport. So these two approaches were actually developed. And if we take a closer look at the conclusion of the housing policy, uh, the housing strategies have to eradicate slums, both from the cities of Bhubaneswar as well as the cities of Cuttack. In fact, the entire metropolis in coming 30 years. And the slums have to be necessarily replaced with adequate housing stock, which is livable. So the housing policy was aimed at that. The second aim of this housing policy, or the second juncture of housing policy, is the development of housing along the commuter routes. And again, integration of housing with the various aspects of metropolis like transport, environment, etc., which will ensure the strategic development of Bhubaneswar and ultimately the state of Odisha. Housing proposal for the upcoming urban centers has also been made, which actually showcases the futuristic approach of this brain shop or the exercise that we undertook. And the proposed housing distribution, if adopted, or the demand structuring that has been done, it will definitely ensure the resilient future of this Bhubaneswar metropolis. Uh, with this, I would like to conclude about Bhubaneswar metropolis, or the Odisha metropolis as we call it. A simple message that we wish to give is urban is something that is outdated. We need to upgrade our vision. We need to expand our spectrum. We need to widen the vision so that we understand the metropolitan is needed. I understand that the principle of IMI, Mr. Pedro, will disagree that the metropolises are circular in nature, but I have been cautious enough that I have put matricular boxes in that particular circle so that it satisfies both the conditions. So it's a thank you and a namaste from my side. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the presentation, and I look forward to taking questions.
Thank you so much, Mr. Piyush. And here we can open in 10 minutes of a Q&A. So
Yeah.
here we go. Does anyone have a question?
Yeah, hello.
Hello?
Okay.
Would you please introduce yourself briefly and then you can say
Yeah,
your question.
sure. This is Akriti from India.
Hello, everyone.
I'm so sorry.
Hello.
Yeah, please go ahead, Miss Akriti.
Yeah. To touch upon the financial or economic aspects of Bhubaneswar Brainshop as to how the implementation in the financial fronts is possible for Orissa Metropolis.
Yeah. So basically the financial, I stopped presenting my presentation, but I would definitely give it a shot. That the financial aspect of the Odisha metropolis, not just in terms of housing, but in terms of productive activities as well as transport, the necessary approach that was undertaken was integration. Integration of other facilities will definitely lead towards the resilient financial future. That is one. Second is the demand structuring that was done of the housing. It showcased that most of the middle income families or lower income families are the ones that need the actual support in terms of housing. So specific focus has been given on the low income families as well as the middle income families to dedicate the housing. Then again, as we speak about finances, I'm more into economic aspects. So in economic terms, like I'd mentioned that the land prices in the major urban centers are getting higher. And that is necessarily putting people a kind of a pressure that they have to build slums so as to live closer to the urban center. So to eradicate this kind of inequality or a parity, regional parity, I would say, the urban centers that are around Bhubaneswar and Cuttack were developed so that there is a living standard as well as there is a financial sustainability distributed across the metropolis. It is very rude to say, but I have not touched into the details. But there's a comprehensive report available with us on the website pedrobortiz.com. You can take a look at it, and I will be most happy to share my presentation after this as well.
Thank you so much for your answer.
Yeah.
Mr. Pierce, there is one question in the chat. I will read it. If urban is outdated, how do we promote metropolitan planning to local politicians who get elected into office by voters who have no idea of planning at all?
Well, that's a very interesting question, something which is very closer to my heart, and I know for Pedro sir's heart as well. For now, like we had two strategies in housing. One is do nothing approach and second is do something approach. I believe in do something approach for this. If you see the participants of this wonderful, just a minute, yeah. If you see the participants of this wonderful idea exchange, there are most of youngsters there are in the room. So don't you think that these people will amplify and they will ask questions to the upcoming politicians? That is one. Second thing is that somewhere down the line, the politicians are not idiots. They're not stupid. At least the 21st century politicians are not stupid. So one fine day, they will definitely feel the heat of adopting the metropolitan discipline. Like we say in the European countries, most of the European countries, if you become the mayor of a major city, you are as powerful as president. But that's not the case in major countries like India, where there are there's a huge population and then there are the huge number of politicians. But there are three things that I would definitely emphasize upon, that at least in India, I would say, politicians are not everything. There is a separate executive structure and there is a separate judicial structure. So it is governed by a constitution. So if we make proper constitutional amendments, it is a very mandatory thing for the politicians to follow, to adopt the metropolitan discipline. For that matter, back in 1992, in India, there was a proper third constitutional amendment which talked about development of metropolitan planning committees. it is a other story that it was whether it was implemented or not. But at least the constitution talks about it. At least the politicians have to take cognizance of it. So I think the way forward should be constitutional than the political, because constitution is something that remains for years to come than the politicians who will disappear right after they make promises to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your answer. Any other questions? Please.
May I ask a question?
Yeah, of course. Mr.
Hello,
Danish.
Mr. Payush. How are you?
I'm good. Very happy Diwali, Danish.
Yeah. In fact, I would like to pose a question to Mr. Payush regarding housing sector. So, what do you think? Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. How are you?
I'm doing good.
So it was a pretty good presentation shared by yourself. So I
Thanks.
would like to pose a question.
Please.
Welcome. I would like to pose a question regarding housing. So you have told us about the calculation of housing demand, housing need. So would you take into account the other factors which are internationally accepted at the moment, like we consider, as I have also gone through the research for housing sector here in Pakistan. So we consider one household and one housing unit. For each and every household, we need one housing unit. Do you consider something like that over there to calculate the housing need or housing demand? And what is the criteria? What is the actually the your in your particular perspective, the inclination of the local population? Do they want high-rise buildings, apartments, or they would prefer for horizontal development in the form of housing townships and housing estates or something like that? And what about the walkability concept over there? Walkable neighborhoods and walkable housing estates.
All right.
Will you throw some light on that?
Sure. Yeah. So first of all, in terms of the planning or the planning projections, yes, one household stands one house for our calculations as well. Well, I'd rather say there are two different units. First is the household and second is the dwelling unit. So different planning exercises take different things in account, I must say. That is one. Second thing is about the preference of housing, that typology, I would say, that you mentioned. Mr. Danish, at least in India, it depends upon the type of city or the type of metropolis or the type of area in a metropolis we are speaking about. If that area is too urban, then there is no option just to go for high-rise buildings because there's a huge land scarcity. But if it is not a too urban area, then there's a mindset of Indian people to have an individual house, like a bungalow or like a villa or like a two-floored building, so that they have the sense of ownership, which is lacking in high-rise townships where there are 500 flats and I own one of them. Where I go, I don't know who my neighbor is, and I don't have any things to show or to exchange. So the mindset depends upon the context that we speak in. That is one. And second, you talked about different terms like walkable neighborhood or something. Well, I have already written on it that the DNA of Indians is for mixed land use. We have necessarily have a shop on the ground floor and a residence on the upper floor. So this thing, abundance of shops and abundance of homes itself makes our neighborhoods very much walkable. Say the daily needs shop or a milk booth is just 2 minutes walking from me because it is necessarily a part of one's residence. So this mixed land use planning, which is a very local or urban level thing, not a metropolitan level thing, if I'm not wrong, Mr. Pedro, but this land use characteristic already makes our neighborhoods very much walkable, at least in the core parts of the cities. I'm talking about cities, not metropolises. But if we come to the fringe sites of the cities, where the real estate is mostly engaged in the high-rise townships or so, there lies the problem of walkable neighborhoods. So yes, we need to promote walkable neighborhoods. But then again, I'm in complete synergy with the views of Mr. Pedro that too much walkable neighborhoods are fascist, because they definitely promote a sense of silos, planning in bubbles. If it is walkable to me, then I don't need to go to the core part of the city. So the lack of interaction might be there. So I'm of mixed opinions in that sense. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your answer, Mr. Piyush. Thank you so much for your presentation also.
Yeah.
And now we are lack of
Before I
time, so
close, before I close, I'm so sorry. Before I close, I thank everyone for joining today, and thank you to the International Metropolitan Fellowship for a wonderful opportunity to present my views. Thank you.
you are welcome. Now we are delighted to welcome Madam Gretel. But before that, let me give a short introduction of her. So she's in this domain since 1966 till today. And from 2000, let me start from 2008 because we don't have time, sorry. So from 2008 to 2012, she was working as a planner of project coordinator, their POT, to obtain their permits to construct. From 2015 to 2017 as an advisor of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Planning, and from 2018 to 2020 as an advisor of territorial planning and ODS for strategic sectors between public and private. Are you with us, Madam Gretel?
Yes, I am here.
Welcome. We are very happy to have you.
Okay.
You can start your presentation. You have 20 minutes, and after that, 10 minutes for questions.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you, everybody, and good morning. Here we are in the morning. I decided, as you saw, to send all the participants the final report that was made by about 5 years ago, that was made with, of course, with the ministry that I was working with. It's the Ministry of Economy and Planning. And at that moment, we decided that it was better to ask BID to send somebody to help us to really have at least one first approach of what metropolitan Great Santo Domingo is. We arranged them to send Pedro Ortiz, which we knew before, and of course we knew that he was the person that could approach what we needed more, with the help of with the help of, I'm not going to read, I'm just going to say some things because I consider that it's better to really have some kind of, because I sent that you the final report, I suppose you saw it. We wanted to really acknowledge people which were working with us all the time, just to have in the Brainshop, the first approach to really metropolitan planning. That's why we decided not to be as before, not to be only talking about what was the final report, which it's very comprehensive, and besides, it's a very good report that I think could be really a model for countries like ours. We have a very complicated country. It's small, 48,000 square kilometers. It's divided with a country that is Haiti, and I don't have to talk about Haiti, but it's really a difficult situation from all points of view. And that's why we decided to have an approach more of the dialogues and the context that we really considered a principle for to have something, at least. This is the other way around. We plan it, and then of course we are waiting for the political decision that we hope it's now, for political decision to really implement what was the result of our Brainshop. That's why the approach is more political, more historic, more cultural, because this is the main things that I think we have to take into account when we really talk about our country and our possible metropolis. Possible, I always say possible. This is that we have, from the historical point of view, we have a long situation of misunderstanding and not really do what it's planning, or especially territorial planning. But anyway, we have all the ingredients, I can say, to begin with something that is, as I said, very complex, very complex. We have all kind of conflicts. We have their competences are not really what should be. It's a complicated situation too, and not needless to say, like Pedro says, the budget. We never have a good budget for this type of things, because our governments till now are very strengthening the economic situation, which is of course not very good. But anyway, we are in some type of approach. We are now in the middle of a breaking point, something that could be probably could be a good beginning for really have a metropolitan approach to planning, especially territorial planning, which is, as a matter of fact, really not. It's not considered right now as a real important thing beyond other problems. And so that's why our approach was to send you the report and a PowerPoint, which I'm not going to read, but a PowerPoint that has some, if you can show the where the maps are, please, the maps. Well, this is only to show that we, since 1938, we had this Plano de la Ciudad Trujillo. You know that Trujillo was the person that really made after the destruction of Santo Domingo, of Ciudad Trujillo, and he really had the idea of making something to start, and this was it's kind of just to show we had something. If you can go to the end, please. Okay. No, the next. No, before that. No, before. Yeah. Of course, when we saw what we really have and what it's possible, we think that a good decision would be for the government to have a model to work with, because we don't have any. We have a neoliberal government, and politics are the center of each approach to all the ministries, and of course the government is always in the middle of everything, if you know what I mean. So we shared with Pedro his Metro Matrix model, and that's why I sent you this final report, which is very good, and it's really what should be an approach to a metropolis of Gran Santo Domingo. Gran Santo Domingo is now only center of the what is called the capital city, and it began with eight municipalities, which were were formed to approach metropolitan plan. But as I told you, this has been impossible because really governments have to deal with so many problems that are day by day problems. And of course, we are not a poor country. We're not a poor country, but we are in the middle of becoming a country with some implementations to connect with other countries, not only in the Caribbean region, but in the world. And that's why we consider very important to approach this type of context. And we, of course, need a lot of help. But as IMY was beginning to have a fellowship, I think that with this, everybody can help us a lot to point out the real importance of having a metropolis, a real metropolis. As a matter of fact, that's why we here you can see it, because I think that this PowerPoint should be then shared with everybody in IME. That's why we always appoint the possibilities of being in the way to real planning. in that direction, we pointed out the strategic planning as an instrument to build metropolis, our metropolis. But we don't have, still now, we don't have the possibilities of sharing with all the sectors, which are always it's always managed by ministries, and the center of the government is always just as I told you, it's always only trying to to really dissolve problems. So I at the end, I pointed out some conclusions and recommendations, which are, for me, the most important thing, just to be able to push what what the final report of the metropolis, of the Brainshop. That's why I always say that Brainshop is very important to have an image, objective image of what we decided that we wanted. All the people that were represented in the Brainshop, and all the ministries, and the private sector, which was there too. Well, my conclusions and recommendations, you can see it there. I point out that the smart cities that seems to be the modern panacea is only a technical issue, but we need more political decisions, and we always talk about political decisions, and we are still waiting for these political decisions, which of course I say that no longer seems to be able to wait any longer, because there are big problems that are only seen as separated problems. That is something not new, and we hope that we can really push for a rational way of in the right direction, and that's why we pointed out this let's say conclusions and recommendations. Okay, the conclusions are very, I'm going to read it because I know that we don't have time for more. The conclusions were to exceed, not exceed the political, administrative limits. That's something that is, we have that problem. With false limit, not considering functionality of the territory, which is my main objective as a planner. Consider the existent and political functional relationship that is very important, because we are structured from the municipios to the political government, and then we say that of course we think it's important the diversity of management that we have to begin with through this metropolitan approach, to begin to really see the macro regional scale and the supra municipals that we consider that it's in consideration associative existing figures, because that is one of our big problems from the planning and territorial planning point of view. And at the decentralization of competences and resources, which are mainly legal, with its incentive for decentralization of competences and of resources. And as recommendations, very briefly, yes, that's going to be the end. Thank you. The recommendation would be to the metropolization is good. It's okay. The metropolizations generated by development process, which is in the heart of what our approach is. The management for organizations in context of territorial plans, the selection of alternatives to maintain the necessary relationship between society, culture, and nature, and the territorial policies as component of planning. At the end, we decided just to give you the general idea. This is all, of course, all of Pedro's. Before that. This is all the approach of mathematics that we thanks Pedro, we have now more or less as an approach. Continue, please. All that it's Dominican Republic and all these centralities and structure of our country, and then at the end we come to Santo Domingo, great Santo Domingo, and at the end we took of Pedro something he always says is we have to leave playing with and we have to begin playing chess. This is a very good image. I like it because it talks without having to say anything. So I don't know, it's probably my approach to this Brainshop is not it's the contrary of everybody, but I hope that we really can have probably not now, but after to have a good debate about metropolis and what they really can do for a country to develop. Thank you very much. This is the, thank you. This is in the final report, this is what came out as a Metromatrix approach to Great Santo Domingo. I'm not going to go into it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for this amazing presentation, and also thank you for your efforts. Here we open 5 minutes to questions. Any question, please?
Good morning, this is Milena. I
Welcome,
just
Milena.
would like to have Gretel explaining a little bit better about the institutional framework and government arrangements to make possible these plans.
It was for me? It was a question for me?
Can you repeat, please, Milena?
Yes, because I didn't get it.
Okay, sorry. I just would like to have Gretel to elaborate a bit more about the institutional framework or the government arrangements to make possible these plans?
Okay. Well, as I said, more or less, that's one of the big problems right now. The governments we had, probably because of our history as planners and our culture, the neoliberal system that is not anymore a good solution. But they are the ones that have to decide, the decision makers. They really don't see the importance of having a metropolis. I have to say the truth. I was in the middle of all this with 50 years as a planner. When I say it, it's terrible. But anyway, that's the truth. We are still waiting for 10 years, two laws which are the regional planning law, and the other one, the territorial management law for the country. And they are very good laws. But they are sitting in the Congress all the time. They for some reasons, there's always more important laws and problems to solve. And what really is the base of something, at least for us, the territorial planners, it's always they are always talking and talking and talking. Like right now, we have a very potent problem in the metropole, the metropolis of Santo Domingo. It's the traffic and transit problem, but they don't see it as a system. And I'm always sharing and saying that if we don't see it as a system, as well as other infrastructure that have to be seen as systems, we're not going to get into a good solution. So that's for me, that's the most important thing to point out. And of course, it's very sad. For me, it's very sad. Okay?
Okay. Thank you, Gretel.
So much. Thank you for everyone. Now I'm going to give the mic to my friend, Danny. Danny. Hello, Danny. I don't know where he is. Okay, Danny, I think Danny is not here. Lama, can we see the program again?
Yes, just a minute.
Yeah, just show us the next steps.
I think Danny is here now.
Danny, please.
Yes, hi.
Welcome.
Good
It's to you
afternoon,
now.
everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can all hear me. So I will be taking over the next session of today's event. And I'm representing the Sub-Saharan African chapter as the lead. And for those who don't know me well, my name is Danny Colombo. I am representing the city of Kinshasa and interimly representing the city of Johannesburg as well. And I am an architect by profession, as well as an housing and infrastructure development advisor, both in Congo and in South Africa. So without much further ado, let me move over to the next slot of the presentations. And to present on the Kochi Brainshop, it's Matthew George. And a quick description of Matthew. Matthew George is an urban designer, architect, and researcher who has worked on a number of national and international projects, including Pedro Ortiz's Brainshops. He's currently working on an urban design development consultant at the administration head of the Indian chapter of the International Metropolitan Fellowship, and as an assistant professor at the MCAP in Trivandrum, Kerala in India. So Matthew, over to you.
Thank you, Danny, for the great introduction. Am I audible? First of all, please let me know if there any interference. Am I audible, Danny?
Yes, you are.
Yes.
Go ahead, you are.
Okay, first of all, thank you, the entire IMF, for giving me this opportunity to share our Kochi Brainshop, which was conducted last year. Yes. Shall I share, or will the dais will take over the? Can I share the screen, or?
Yeah, you can share. Go for it.
Yes. Okay. That will be more comfortable for me.
Go for it.
Do you want me to stop share?
Yes, stop sharing, Lama, please.
Yeah, okay.
It's showing like a host have disabled the screen sharing. Can you enable that?
You can just make Matthew the co-host. It'll give him the access.
Danny, can you make me the co-host? I'm having difficulty sharing. Yes. Good, thank you.
Yes, Matthew, you are now co-host.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Danny. Is my screen visible?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Okay, thank you all. Today's presentation will be presented by me, and also with me will be Akriti Singhai. She will be helping me with sharing this Brainshop. So moving on, since we have less time, let's move on to the main Brainshop thing. First of all, this is how. So first we were thinking about sharing some Brainshop basics, but luckily everyone before me, this is already explained the Brainshop and what is basics. And then we will be moving on to the small introduction about what is about the Kochi city. Then we will go to the sectoral analysis part, where we will be discussing different issues in different sectors according to the metropolitan level, and then the solutions we have given them. Then the conclusion part. That's how the entire structure of our talk will be today. Then, yes, as we all know, the metropolitan Brainshop is intended to face the issues or the whatever planning according to a metropolitan level, which is greater than the usual urban policy of urban planning levels. So keeping in mind the future, we have ahead of 30 years. So the entire metropolitan Brainshop for Kochi was envisioned for 2050, and we have specified sectors integrated for the development, which was environment, transport, housing, productive activities, and social activities. Then, according to this, we have envisioned the entire project, the entire Brainshop, and according to that, we have made some lot of suggestions. And in the Kochi Brainshop was conducted last year in the August. And we have given the entire report to the central ministry because the entire project Brainshop was conducted in a cooperation between the Cochin Municipal Corporation as well as Central Ministry of India, and as part of EU integrated collaboration between the EU and Indian government. So mostly Kochi was having a lot of issues because of the unplanned urbanization which is happening from after the creation of Kochi city in the last century. To be frank, the history of Kochi goes back to around 1,000 years back itself. So from that time itself, there have been the completely the unplanned manner, unplanned urbanization occurred in the Kochi city have affected it very negatively. And that's that's important. That's why it's so important to have a proper plan, have a development plan for the city. And for this, the Brainshops we have integrated within different 5 sectors, like productivity and environment that we have read before, and integration between the across different sectors, and also integration between the different scales. Yes, Kochi is the cradle of cultures. They have been called by many names by different people over the years. The term I use, the cradle of cultures, is simply because it's a history which dates back to the 700 AD. As you can see, this is the small brief of the entire history of Kochi city. Kochi city was from the Arabs or from 700 AD, and then after the creation of proper kingdom of Kochi, it has been invaded and occupied by Portuguese, Dutch, British. Then again in 19th century, after India got independence, the Indian culture is more started to seep into the entire Kochi city. So you can see there are multiple cultures influence the entire city development. And in the middle part, you can see a development, how the development phase came to the mainland. Till mid of 19th century, that is around 1860, there was an island there, which is called as Port Kochi, where the entire commercial hub was focused on that area. But after 1870 AD, the mainland became the focus area, and that's how the Arab started the urbanization of the mainland, where the current Kochi corporation and the entire metropolitan area is situated. Kochi is located on a seaplain separated from Indian Deccan Plateau by a ridge of Ghats, which we call as Western Ghats, along the west coast of Indian subcontinent. When it comes to demographics, there are around 3 million population there, and with 9 lakhs of households, and with a growth rate of 1.9 annually. But in the images, you can see that how much the population density and growth rate of the city is booming over the last 10 to 50 years. And this is how important that we need to address the different issues of the Kochi city in relation to the coming 2050 master plan. These were the some different demarcated areas to understand how the Kochi urban agglomeration is and how it is influencing the neighboring districts as well as different other regions, which is entirely connected with the Kochi city. Yes, and also it is one thing which we should remember, that it is the economical backbone of the entire state of Kerala, and it have been generating around around 40% of the total income for the state. There are a lot of opportunities hidden in the city of Kochi. Like there are as you can see in the maps here shown, that there is a very great global sea route there, which is not much utilized here, except for the luxury cruises are the main focused the sea people who are using sea routes around the Kochi. But it can be used for trade routes, and also the air routes can also be used, manipulated for the benefit of the state of for the city. Kochi city itself. And also there are other freight airports and industrial corridors are also are supposed to be there. And like that, the opportunities are numerous for the city, but for that a proper planning and proper metropolitan approach is very relevant. And also the density, population density in here is very increasing, so that, but if we look at it in a positive way, it can be to give a more productive approach if we use the increase in population of the Kochi city. Like it again, the main thing is that the entire Kochi, rather than any productions, it's a service-oriented city where they are giving a lot of services to the people, like giving IT services. Mostly, there have been IT boom in the city in 2008. From that time onwards, the entire city is focused on making IT parks and giving up more and more services to the outside. It has been detected after studies that there are 26 urban centralities around the cities. As we all know, the metro shops, the chess strategies. We have been identified the king, the queen, the rooks and bishops and knights of our city. The king, definitely, that is the historic identity, as I have already mentioned. The historic identities are focused on the Port Kochi area, where we have been a lot of cultures were involved. Then the queen is definitely international area, that is mostly the international airport area and its vicinity. Then the rooks, rooks will be the different congestivity that the different IT parks are there, the IT hubs are there, like those rooks are there. Then bishops is definitely the main area, the core area where the administration are there, where like there is a high court, which is the highest court of the state, which is located in Kochi area, and also there are municipal corporation areas and like that. So this map explains different urban centralities, and this is how, according to this metropolitan level, regional level approach, we are given to our proposals. The growth pattern of the city is it's going beyond the limit, the usual limit after the ITP. Especially the annual growth rate is over 3% now, as you can see in the right side corner that how the urban growth happened in Kochi city. Starting from the 1870s, from the Fort Kochi area, it has started and it's still going on. It has spread that across the neighboring districts also, surrounding districts, including Alipi, Thrissur, and the Kottayam are all affected, and they also become a satellite towns for the enhancement and the growth of the Kochi city. And when it comes to the all, we have gone through the different opportunities and things. But one thing which we have to keep in mind while proposing for the city will be that the threat, the biggest threat the city is having is that definitely will be the Kerala floods. After 2018, because of the deterioration in the biodiversity in the Western Ghats, which is in the western side of the state, have led to a heavy rainfalls, especially cloud bursts. So because of that, the Kerala floods are increasing drastically, and because of that, Kerala floods and because a lot of properties, economically, financially, it has weakened many fields. Like last year also, there was a heavy Kerala flood, which affected the Kochi city very badly, and also sea rise. That's the one thing. Because of the global warming and all, the sea rise is increasing per year, and it's alarmingly increasing. So it's also important to consider these aspects while making a proposal in sectoral proposals for the different issues that Kerala will be having in 2050. Then sectoral approaches, we have environment, transport, housing, productive activities, social facilities. These are the sectors we will be looking at individually, and the issues and solutions will be given accordingly. For the sectoral approaches presentation, I would like to invite my co-teammate Ms. Akriti. She will present the sectoral approaches. Is Ms. Akriti there?
Yeah, thank you, Matthew. Am I audible?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. So for sectoral approaches, we've tried to analyze all the different aspects of different sectors and try to identify the problems and proposed solutions for different sectors. So let me quickly start with the environment sector. Next slide, yeah. So as Matthew has already mentioned, Kerala is a lot about, diversity, a lot about heritage in terms of green ecosystem. So there are a lot of problems which are leading to a lot of different unprecedented hazardous situations in Kerala. So habitat fragmentations, water retention capacity, and reduction of forest cover. All of these things have led to a lot of unplanned and unregulated development, and non-uniform distribution of greens, and industrial growth has not been planned. So all these things with respect to environment has been analyzed, and a lot of different solutions were proposed in terms of linking the green and blue to make Kochi or the Kochi metropolitan area rich in biodiversity and ecosystem, and to promote the different biodiversity related activities and different productive activities related to environment also. So there were a lot of proposals made with respect to identifying the green and blue linkages, with respect to creating those green and blue linkages in order to increase the biodiversity or economic factors in the metropolitan region. So administrative efforts were pointed towards afforestation and reforestation, environmental regulations, changing of environment regulations, and all of that. And there were specific project related efforts like to increase the biodiversity, farmlands, increase the productivity in terms of making the green blue linkages, increasing tourism, and things like that. Next slide, please. Hello. Yeah. So second thing comes transportation. So we've in the entire Brainshop, we have tried to focus on the fact that transportation should not be the driver of the metropolitan development, but it should be the supporter of for the metropolitan development. So transportation and environment are two things which need to go on in hand, and environment should be the driver and transportation should be the supporter of what are the needs and different requirements of the environment. So for in the transportation sector, there were different issues which were identified. The main issue were the disconnection or the ill connection of the different urban centralities. The connection of Kochi and in fact Kerala has a great rail connectivity network and pattern, but the urban centralities and urban nuclei is not as well properly connected in terms of the number of trips, in terms of the passenger carrying capacity and all of that. And also the road network has to be thought upon, because the metropolitan development depends upon how easily one can move to work. So not only in terms of great distances to be traveled, in terms of intercity connectivity with bus systems and different intermodal connectivities are also a problem, one of the major identified issues. And then the second one was the concentration of economic activities. As Matthew has also earlier mentioned, the Port Kochi region has been the focus area for all the economic and commercial developments. But when we talk about the entire metropolitan region, we understand that the concentration of economic activity at some point is not what we should aim for. We should aim for decentralization of activities, and we should aim for developing in a holistic manner. So concentration of economic activities and the result of which is congestion, traffic, and all of that has been a major issue again. Then the third major issue found was the ineffective use of existing rail. So north-south rail, existing rail is the north-south across the along the coastal line. So this is the connectivity issues are there. It is not efficient enough to be, holding the population or holding the travel demands of the travel requirements of the population there. So in that direction, because of after analyzing different aspects, we've also proposed the commuter rail system to feed or to cater to the different requirements of the people. Then one of the major important issue was the need to expand the airport and the port capacities. As Matthew mentioned earlier, we've identified that Kochi or India in general is a supplier of low value, high volume goods. But in order to identify on the map of big metropolises, we will have to be shifting towards low weight and high value goods. To cater to that demand, we need a lot of airport facilities or freight facilities from Kochi. And to cater to the current demand, we'll also have to expand the port facilities, which water connectivity in the region. So in different aspects, we've identified these issues, and then we've proposed different solutions as to how to cater to these major transportation deficit issues. So of course, solutions or anything which cater to your problems. So all the problems which I've listed, the solution is expanding of capacity, or in terms when it comes to airports and ports, and also expanding the connectivity when it comes to railway expansion. And then of course, identifying what and where to connect and how this expansion has to go around. This was the entire gist of how we should be going around the metropolitan planning of Kochi city. So additional construction of freight airport, and increasing the capacity or increasing the railway network or adding the commuter network were the major recommendations given for the transport sector by us. Next slide, please. Next is housing, which is my particular specialty. I've studied housing and I'm a housing planner, and housing has always been an issue, not only in Kochi, but the entire all the big and small cities of India especially. So when we talk about Kochi, we've seen a tremendous growth rate. And when we talk about metropolis, we think that it is going to grow by 2 million population in the next 30 years. 2 million is a huge population to cater to. And this has been, I think in the previous, when Piyush was presenting, someone asked about how we go about calculating the housing demand, or how we go about calculating how much of the houses or house dwelling units we need for the population. So the basic gist of this, if I can explain here, is that we try to calculate first, project the population, which will for the target year which we're talking about. Then we also calculate or project the size of household, because when we think about, or when we talk about the traditionally, the size of Indian household has been decreasing because of various social and economic factors. Especially in Kerala, it has come from 5.5 members per family in 2001 to 4.5 currently, and it is expected to decrease by 3.2, 3.4 by 2051. So if the number of people living in one dwelling unit is decreasing and the population is increasing, then the number of units which we require to house this population is tremendous, and it's huge. So we have calculated, we've taken into consideration different factors of how to provide the number of dwelling units, and we've calculated that to house the 6.4 million population, we'll require an additional 2.1 million dwelling units in the previous slide. Matthew? Yeah. So we'll require another 2.1 million dwelling units by 2050. So these dwelling units, we've tried to prioritize these dwelling units along the transit corridors or along the TOD corridors, which we had planned in the transportation sector. And we've also calculated the amount of land required or density to be proposed for this housing requirement, because housing or dwelling units is the highest, land taking area in the system. Yes, Danny, I'll quickly wrap this up. Next slide. So this is where, this is how we've distributed the different housing requirements in the 26 urban or the urban nuclei systems in across the metropolis. Next slide, please. Next is about the productive activities. The productive activities have to go along with how we distribute the working population in different aspects. So integrated economic hub was the proposal here, and there were a group of projects which were submitted in order to increase the productive activity or the increase the commercial development in the metropolis, so that the employment opportunities are generated as we go along the increase in population of the metropolis. Next slide. So these were the different proposals: food and manufacturing zone, light industry zone, heavy industry zone, economic development zone, special economic zone. So these were identified with respect to the different locational aspects of different areas, and then the decentralization and diversification of industrial activities were proposed in terms of economic development activities for Kochi metropolitan area. Next slide. Social facilities. In terms of social facilities, we found that Kochi in general is, when we talk about education and medical facilities, right now at this stage in time, the facilities are sufficient, but we'll have to there's a need to plan for the upcoming population or upcoming demand by the population in the next 30 years. So the education facilities, distribution of education facilities currently are centralized towards, bigger urban centers in Kochi, but they need to be decentralized to be able to provide for equitable distribution of education and other social facilities. Here we've covered education and medical facilities mostly, but we've also analyzed different other facilities when we were during the workshop or the brain shop. Next slide. Next slide. Yeah, so this was how the distribution was there. Yeah, land requirements for housing, as I've already mentioned, the land requirement is humongous. And when we talk about the type of, the kind of living or the kind of priorities of people in South India, especially in Kerala, they like to live horizontally. So horizontal development, if we try continue the horizontal development, is not going to solve the problem of housing anywhere in near future. Is going to be an area where there are tremendous growth of slums, because the density is not, we'll not be able to cater to the high population growth with the current density which is going on there. So we will need to go for higher densities, because we need a lot of area, we need a lot of dwelling units to cater to the demands. Matthew, do you want to take this conclusion forward?
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Aditi, for the presentation. Yes. Continuing our projects. Then several infrastructure prioritized projects were put forward, like service residential land. Definitely, the housing needs a lot of residential land for the future of Kochi city people. And then the commuting train were suggested, because the Kochi city is not having commuter trains. Even though it's having a lot of passenger long distance passenger trains, it was lacking commuter trains comparing to the other cities like Delhi, Mumbai, and Kolkata. Then green infrastructure should be there, so that to tackle the sea level issues which is happening, and also the flood prevention things and all. Then there is Kochi Garuda Freeway was there. Freeway was intended to make a great industrial corridor along the peripheries of the city, so that to increase the freight input, and as well as to make more and more exchange of goods as well as services in relation to the goods city. Then centralities which were identified, and it was given, it was suggested to convert to TODs, transitory development. So according to that, different projects were invested. Then high-speed train is HST, which there is already metro is there, and alongside the metro, the high-speed train were recommended as for the basic infrastructure development for the 2050 project. Then sectoral integration was put forward. Like as we all know, when we have checked the different urban governance in regards to the metropolitan governance of these city, it was seen that there were lacked a lot of integration between different sectors, as well as it was very important for the Kochi to evolve into a metropolitan level city, which we can tackle with many other high-end cities across the globe. For that, sectoral integration was important. So the integration between housing, transport, environment, and social facilities groups were put forward. Though they were suggested that housing and transport shouldn't be overlapped, and centralities which we have earlier shown, the 26 centralities should be equipped with proper transport as well as social facilities to cater to the centralities, and also to promote the NMTs, that is non-motor vehicle transport. It was suggested that such new cycle lanes, I mean not cycle lanes, more such innovative things should be put forward. And also social facilities, transport and should be there. Transport lines should be there to cater along the social facilities line, so that the proper job opportunities as well as people can have an exchange of services and social facilities between different sectors. Yes, Dania, we will wind it up soon. Then the social facilities and transport level, we all know that the social facilities, when social facilities increase and transport increase, there will be a lot of labor market will be the increasing, and more labor force is needed, and hence increasing the development of those areas. And the cash flows will be definitely be increasing. And then the industry and housing, it was suggested in this sectoral integration that the industry should be taken away from the centralities and make those areas into housing areas, so that more housing spaces will be allocated, and industries will be having great momentum for development in the other outskirts of the city. That way, the industries will be developing and housing will be getting more spots. And as part of the grand project, we have recommended Garuda Freeway, Garuda Economic Development Areas, and highways for the smooth transit of freights. Then the recommendations are simply the wind-ups of all the suggestions and recommendations we have gone through, like the sea route and the service sector encouragement strategies, international service strategies, then airport and seaport development, then the protecting the biodiversity, then the commuter trains for the development of the industry, then more labor force, and also industrial lands, more giving new industrial economic hubs areas, and also not forgetting giving around 7.4 kilometer square areas for the development of housing sector, and also high density TODs and social facilities based on TODs or urban centralities. I think those are the recommendation and the summary of entire things we have gone through in the last half an hour. And I think thank you all. Thank you all for giving this much time. Sorry, Danny, for exceeding the time. I hope.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I know it's a very interesting presentation to condense in 20 minutes. And it was a very, very informative presentation. So thank you very much for that presentation, Matthew, and you too, Akriti. And I think I would like to call upon Adodo, our fellow from Accra. Adodo, do we have any questions? I think we can only take one question for now due to time. Is there any questions from the chat, or is there anybody who would like to ask a question?
Yes, hello. Hello, everyone. Yes, Ashwini has a question. He says, since the disastrous Kerala flood, I always think the main cause is a highway running along the coast, which cutting across all the rivers and smaller streams, and towards hinterlands, and it's towards hinterlands, all the rice farms converted into housing, increasing the runoff. Now, should the Kerala in general and Kochi should think different way to align the roads? Actually, he has two questions. He has two
Thank you.
questions.
Oh, we have one more question.
Yes. Should I add that one? Okay. Again, it said as Kerala model is more tilted to horizontal development, the city might have expanded quickly, taking over the hinterland, rather urban fragmentation, and farmers converted their rice farms into the housing stock. What is future predictions about the vertical development, which may reduce the land requirements for per urban residents? I think as the aspirations are changed. I think these two questions are linked. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Adodo, for the questions. And also, Ashwini Kumar, thank you for asking first 11 questions in relation to disaster which Kerala is facing. Yes, of course. Just for some clarifications, the main cause for the disaster Kerala floods is because of the deterioration of the Western Ghats, which is caused by a lot of quarries and mining happening across the biodiversity of the Western Ghats. It has been given in a report by Kasuri Rangan in 2012 that it was already predicted, this Kerala floods, but unfortunately the higher ups didn't responded it accordingly. Yes, but to be frank, the highways running across the coast is across Kerala from Kasaragod, which is at the top end, until the Kanyakumari area is a kind of a backbone for our economic suggestions which we have already given today, and also it is a backbone for the trade development as well as for the development of the coast area. Because since we are still underutilized the entire the stretch of the sea coast, but it is not actually, it is not the one reason. It is maybe I will say it's not a big reason for this disaster flood. Mostly it's related to the environmental deterioration happened in the western side. The cloud burst and all happened. But think yes, in a different way, the roads should be aligned. It's focusing on the but actually the cities, all except for the Kochi and Trivandrum areas, the cities are not developed around the coast areas. Cities are more focused towards the central areas of the Kerala state. Like there are many other cities, all are around 20 to 50 kilometers away from the coast areas. Kochi is the only one which is more concentrated towards the coastal area, because as I said, because of the cultural exchange which happened 1,000 years back. That's the main reason. Otherwise, most of the cities are developed towards the central areas of the districts unhindered. And yes, I think we have already discussed that the development should go on towards, according to TODs, different TODs outside the usual ones. I think that alignment of roads mostly should be to the peripheries, and also the peripheries shouldn't also be towards the coastal areas. For otherwise it won't be for the industrial development of our state, it is very necessary development of the state. But it's not much. Yes, it may affect some environment.
Matthew?
Yes. Yes, and sorry again.
No,
I gone through the
thank you
lots of
very much. As I said, unfortunately, you know, we will be,
Yes, yes.
this is why we have our Metro X series, so that we can focus in particular on specific and various metropolises. Unfortunately, we have to move forward with
Yes, yes. Thank
the
you,
event, but
Daniel.
thank you very, very much for the
Thank you,
wealth of
Daniel.
knowledge
Thank you,
that you
Anima,
have
for this
and
great
for the
opportunity.
knowledge that you have imparted to us. Thank you very, very much. And we would like to move on to the next part of the presentation. Ado, can you please do the presentation of our next speaker, please?
Okay. Our next speaker just a minute, please. Yeah.
Okay, Ado, let me assist you
Yeah,
with that.
yes, yeah, I can, yes. Okay. Our next speaker is Luis Eduardo Martinez Almanza. Martinez Almanza is, has over 20 years. Over 20 years, Luis is helping Bolivia government for sectorial and regional planning, building the metropolitan discipline. He is consultant and professor in the main universities in Bolivia and the National Center for Public Training, spreading the metropolitan discipline. Luis.
Thank you very much.
The audience.
Luis, over to you.
Hello, yes, I'm here. Thank you. Thank you very much, Danny. Dear IMF, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. It's a great pleasure and a high honor for me to be at this, our first World Congress today, to talk with you about such an important and exciting topic as metropolitan planning. I want to especially thank Professor Ortiz, who visited the metropolis of Santa Cruz in Bolivia a couple of months ago. It gave an important boost to metropolitan planning, put the most important problems of our region on the agenda. Since its arrival, the issue of metropolises has been permanently in the media, but mainly on the public agenda of decision makers from both the national government and regional government also. But private actors concerned about this important issue are talking about this. This is vital for the development of our country. His arrival was managed by one of our colleagues from IMF, Jorge Alonso. I think he is also here in the Congress. And he is organizing, with the support of Professor Ortiz, our first Brainshop to build the strategic planning of the metropolis of Santa Cruz. For my part, I'm going to talk to you about metropolitan planning as synthesis. Last week, the architect Claudia Canedo commented, I'm sure she's also here, commented in a very detailed and correct way about the governance of the metropolis of Santa Cruz. I will report in general terms about the other metropolises in Bolivia, but mainly I will concentrate, following the advice of Professor Pedro, in carrying out the most important aspects of the discipline of metropolitan planning. I will show you my presentation right now. Metropolitan planning synthesis. Sorry. Okay. As I mentioned in my introduction, last week you heard about the Santa Cruz metropolis, thanks to architect Claudia Canedo. To complete this information, I would like to tell you that Bolivia has two more metropolises: La Paz, seat of the government, but not the capital, which is Sucre, and Cochabamba, in the heart of Bolivia, and which is the only one that has a consolidated institutional framework. The name is Canata of this metropolis. Here we can see the system of cities of Bolivia. It's a work of a UN Habitat. Right here, I will show you, please. Right here we can see three metropolises of Bolivia. Number 3 is Santa Cruz, number 2 Cochabamba, and number 1 La Paz. As you can see, and you can imagine, most of people, of urban people in Bolivia are in these three metropolises. Here at the left side, you can see Corema, worked also by UN Habitat, where you can see in red three metropolises, like the heart of the system of cities of Bolivia. But as we are going to talk about planning, metropolitan planning, what is a planning? The architect Fernando Prado, which is one of the most important architects and planners in Bolivia, has a very simple but powerful definition of planning that I am showing you in this moment. He says that planning is the art of setting goals. So, what is a metropolis? We will see some concept, and then we will get to the concept that we know. Of course, that in the course of metropolitan discipline, we saw that. But in this report of the UN Habitat about the metropolises in the world in 1920, we can see that we have metropolises with more than 300,000 inhabitants or more in 2020. So we have this information about what a metropolis is for UN Habitat. Metropolis in Bolivia. Metropolis regions are regulated by the political constitution of the state and a law, number 31, which is the framework of autonomies and decentralization. This law says they will form metropolitan regions in those conurbations with more than 500,000 inhabitants, and where there will be a metropolitan council. So UN Habitat says a metropolis is a city with more than 300,000. The law in Bolivia says that the regions with conurbation with more than 500,000 inhabitants and where there will be a metropolitan council is a metropolis. Some more data to build this concept. For example, in Bolivia, we, as we can see in this graphic, we have more than 70% of urban population. And in the graphic at the left, Professor Pedro showed us that a calculus for 2,100 is that we will be in the world with this percentage. But in Bolivia, now we are with 70% of urban people. So what is a metropolis? A metropolis is a set of urban units that share significant daily commuting. That is maybe the concept that we all know and that we all have learned in the metropolitan discipline course. And with this concept, we could say, what is a metropolitan planning? Metropolitan planning, we could say that is the process to answer one key question. I think all of them have heard this question. What does metropolis want to be in the future? But in long-term future, maybe in 20, 30, or even 50 years, in that long-term future. What is the role that the metropolis will have in the future in the country, the continent, or the world? That is the key question that we have to answer, the process that we have to answer, and we will have a metropolitan planning. We can also add to this definition that metropolitan planning have a scale of 1 to 50,000, but urban planning is on a scale of 1 to 5,000 to differentiate these two kinds of planning. And to give an extra concept or important definition, we can say that metropolitan planning is a discipline of practice. It's an empiric, and this approach, we should say that is closer to the Aristotle's ideas, but not the approach of Plato about the discipline of perfect theory. So when we are talking about metropolitan planning, we are talking about an empiric and discipline of practice. As we can see right now with the examples of all the presentations in this Congress, for example. Something important that we should see right now is that we have two kind of planification in the metropolitan plan: a strategic plan and structural plan. As we can see right now in the presentation, the strategic plan is one that acts on the 4 components of the metropolis. So it works with the all the genome of the metropolis that we have all known. A structural plan is one that acts fundamentally only on the physical component, but as we can see, not in a level, at a tailored level, but a metropolitan scale. With regard to strategic plans, there are 2 ways to formulate them: words plans and data or figures plans, as you can see on the screen. Words plans are rather a Delphi process, where one gathers in a series of panels that represent the components or sectors, for example, industry, housing, transport, environment, etc., for which no more than 40 or 50 people are brought together. These experts have greater knowledge and or power in a certain sector. It is a process of negotiation, consensus, and agreements. It is an eminently qualitative process. It's very cheap. High-level experts come as guests. Figures or data plans, as you can see also in your screen, they do extrapolation and trend analysis. It is fundamentally quantitative analysis. It is expensive. You must hire, probably you must hire a technical team. Both are good and necessary. If you have the resources, you can count on both, since they complement each other. Physical planning, that is structural planning, identifies mainly transport and environmental systems. Under no circumstances should a metropolitan plan be a land regulator. You can see here, not a land regulator. This continues to be a role for the municipal level in its land use plans that generate inputs for the metropolis. Strategic plans are not a shopping list. They should not collect projects of immediate needs because they will lose their strategic character. The most practical way to work on a strategic plan is the Brainshop, as we can heard a few minutes ago with the experiences of the other participants. It is an intellectual workshop. For example, one is now being organized in Santa Cruz. One of our colleagues from the IMF, two of them, even Jorge Alonso and Claudia, are managing this with the support of Professor Ortiz. It takes when we do the workshop, it will take almost 1 week to work and discuss for exactly 6 days. The first day, the strategic vision is worked. The second day, the structural vision. The other days, the rest of the days, the project ideas are worked with the expert. And the last day, the results are public. In this way, these projects, which have been analyzed by the intelligence of the metropolis, will be empowered by these actors who will then find a way to bring them to reality. One objective is that participating actors and decision makers take ownership in a good way of this project. More than 30 workshops have been held around the world, and in all cases, they have been very useful, as you just heard about the experiences, and have guided strategic, essential, and structural decisions in recent years. In this screen, you can see a summary of the methodology of strategic planning. In the first place, the problems and potential of the metropolis are identified in charge of academics and intellectuals. Subsequently, the causes of these factors are analyzed, direct actors, general managers. Then the necessary actions company president and majors are analyzed to finally define the program to be implemented by the managers of the institutions, as you can see in this screen. So the metropolitan operation planning is a tool to build, to generate, to formulate a plan. Is also an art to formulate questions. The most important question that we have to formulate in this workshop, in this Brainshop, is when, what, who, whose, where, why, to find the problems, but mainly to look for the answers to this question, to this problem, and do it together with the metropolitan intelligence. As I said a few minutes ago, a metropolitan Brainshop, and maybe some of the other participants could comment about the experiences of this part. Have are planned to 6 days. Day 1, we can see the component integration. Day 2, the strategic priorities. Day 3, 4, and 5, project development. And the 6th day, as we said before, is very important to public presentation. Well, that is what I wanted to show you, like a synthesis of metropolitan planning. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Luis, for the presentation. Adodo, over to you. Do we have any questions from the floor, or is there anybody in the room who would like to ask some questions? Or make comments, contributions?
Not really, but I think what Fanny Madibola is asking is if the presentation will be made available to participants after the conference, which means we are all paying so much attention. So we would like to have it, and then in our own quiet time, we can go through. And so he's asking, yes.
Okay.
And then, yes. And then I think it's just words, IMMFU. It's just saying he hopes that things will be presented, will be printed. The papers will be printed. He said you need more lithium instead than printed papers. Not too clear what he wants to say.
Or maybe should we ask, can we ask the gentleman to make the comment?
Yeah.
So can you maybe clarify the question you made, please?
Nearby the lithium triangle is there, and there's a lot of discussion if it can valuable, is it valuable? So I think if you export and import, so you have the lithium there, and but you have, so is this a big political discussion or in Bolivia? So so you have to make thousands of tons out of it, and then
I'm not sure about the question, but yes, lithium is an important issue in Bolivia. It's not exactly related to the 3 metropolises. It is on the Salar of Uyuni in the department of Potosí, but of course it is an important issue for us, and it will be more in the next years. I'm sure about that. As we don't have too much questions, I would like maybe if in 1 minute Professor Pedro could comment something about the branch of Santa Cruz. It's very important, and as I said before, after the Professor Pedro visited us, everybody in our country is talking about the metropolises. Please,
Well,
Professor.
thank you, Luis Eduardo. I'm very happy to know that everyone is talking about the metropolis now in Bolivia. No? And I hope that the Brainshop will open a window on the future of Bolivia in handling and managing the metropolis of Bolivia. No? As you mentioned very well, there are 3 main metropolises, and the national government wants to make a Brainshop in each of those metropolis. And I hope that UN Habitat will be present and will be very active. As I know, the leader of UN Habitat already from Santo Domingo. He was into the Santo Domingo Brainshop because he was the UN Habitat leader of Haiti, and he was present there, and he knows how these Brainshops work. Well, actually, we are just waiting for the approval of Fomplata, which is the multilateral bank that is a bank, a development bank of 5 countries on the river of the Plata area, and that is, you probably know better than I do, Bolivia, Uruguay, Argentina, Brazil, and another one, Paraguay, Uruguay, Argentina, Brazil, and Bolivia. And that is the Rio de la Plata. So we are just waiting for the approval of the budget and to start building up the Brainshop. As you know, a Brainshop takes 45 days to build up, because we have to choose the institutions that have to be representative of decision-making on metropolitan issues. Then those institutions, we have to get in contact with the leaders of those institutions, mayors, governors, or whatever, Chamber of Commerce, Business Confederation, transport, and so on. We have to ask them to appoint the representatives in the Brainshop, and then we have to talk to the representatives so they know what they are expecting, what is expected from them. These Brainshops are not just to go there to listen and to smile, is to go there and to work for 5 days developing the projects. So it's a very hard work, is value for money, because during those 5 works is mainly the cost of it is the catering of the 50 people that are involved in the Brainshops, but the results is obviously the coordinated work of 50 people during 1 week, which is a very good result. So we expect to have the Brainshop of Santa Cruz in December, and if it's not in December, it will be in January. And then the Brainshops of La Paz and Cochabamba probably in the weeks of March and April. We have, as we have been dealing with the Brainshops of Bhubaneswar and Kochi, we have planned, the European Union and the central government has planned for this year 2021 2 Brainshops in India, completing the ones in Kochi and Bhubaneswar. But I don't know what's happening, and it's taking long, and there probably are people that do not understand the importance and the relevance and the usefulness of those Brainshops, and the programming of them and the organizing of them are being delayed, and I don't know if at the end they will be undone. They will be overpass, but that's the problem of people that do not understand the complexity of the metropolis and the use of those Brainshops. But the Bolivia one, the Santa Cruz one, is going ahead. We're only waiting, as I mentioned, for the approval of the funds from Plata, and I hope it will take place in December or in January. Thank you, Luis, for your presentation. It was a very good presentation about the framework of those Brainshops, and it can be used from everyone else in their own metropolis. I know that there are 30 or 40 participants. They can use your presentation as a guideline for proposing and for presenting the possibility of doing those Brainshops in their own metropolises. We are going to see now probably Mark presenting the Hackenathon Metro Hackenathon of Cebu. Hackenathon was as you know, an Egyptian pharaoh, no? But anyway, the Metro Cebu, and this is a new approach that Mark is developing on having these Brainshops not only face to face, which is extremely useful. You really need to have the face to face, but as well through virtual Brainshops. That is second best. But it's a very interesting experience, and I hope Mark is going to present the benefits of it now. Thank you.
Thank you, Pedro.
Thank you very much, Pedro, for those words, and thank you very much for the assistance in terms of the presentation that we received from Louise. And Louise, once again, from the IMF team, we'd like to thank you very much for the presentation. And as Pedro mentioned, we are now moving on to the Cebu Metro Hackathon. And Adodo, I'd like to invite you to please do the introduction of our next speaker.
Thank you, Danny. Mark is the president of NPRESIS and also current president of IMF. He holds a master's degree in urban and planning, regional planning. He is excited with the possibilities of the digital transformation and the metaverse. He is an avid advocate of inclusive land and enterprise development. His current works involves the following: addressing the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office under UN Habitat, in embedding sustainability units and design of a Central Park in New York City, and piloting affordable housing in both NCC and Cebu. Advises the Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development to initiate the pilot National Urban Agriculture Program.
Hello. Thank you for the introduction. I think that's very good. But thank you. I really appreciate the introduction, but I just want to optimize the time before we. So let me dive into it. Thank you very much, Adodo. Hello, everyone. Good evening, good morning, good day to all. So let me just so this is last presentation. So what I'd like to do is revert. I was supposed to do the Metro Hackathon and then the next steps race forward. So I'll revert it now. I'd like to start with the next step so that to set the context of the the Metro Hackathon. Then let me share my screen. Let me know if you're able to see my screen. Okay, you can see my screen, Danny.
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so yeah, I'll make this very brief. So basically, just I'd like to set the context of the Metro Hackathon, and then briefly about the Metro Cebu that we did, and then the video I'll show it, and then maybe let's close the Congress. And really grateful to have all of this discussion. So okay, so we're nearing the closing of this Congress, and we're also nearing the end of my term as president of IMF. So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank everyone for all your support and really all the effort and putting this all together. So hopefully our next president will continue all of these good things that we've started. So okay, so for the last 5 months, what we've been doing is really, I follow this framework, it's called the Metro. So, of course, we're talking about metropolitan So I believe to break down the metro, to break down what we need to do, we started with mobilizing the fellows. So we initiated the academic task force, the professional task force, which on day zero, we realized really the importance of the academic task force. And right now, we are actually starting to draft the metropolitan course. Hopefully, if it continues, we'll be discussing further in the last weeks to follow. And then the professional task force, we've also started some partnerships. Hopefully, if this continues. And then the E of the Metro is engage partners. So we've developed the cooperative task force, the innovation task force, and the marketing. So all of this, we planted the seeds. Hopefully, this becomes the impact of this will be continued later on. So now this leads now to the Metro Hackathon in the Congress. So I believe when I started my term, I believe there are two things that we needed to do. The complexities of metropolitan planning, I've seen it in the Philippines. Through our presentations, there's a lot of challenges, and I was really struck by Greta's presentation. There's a lot of barriers. So I believe there are two things that we should do. So we have to create an army of metro hackers. I call it metro hackers because we have to hit the ground running. We have to be innovative. We have to be entrepreneurial. But more importantly, you have to be armed with the right tools. So as Danny mentioned earlier, we have the Metro X to discuss the details of it, of specific metropolitan areas. Then we have the IMF Congress that we're doing now. Hopefully this becomes a yearly thing. And then now takes me to the Metro Hackathon. So the Metro Hackathon is very important because what I realized is, as Pedro mentioned earlier, the Brainshop really takes a lot of time and resources to put together. As a backstory, we originally wanted to do the Brainshop for Metro Cebu. We started the discussion back in January, but I'll tell more about it later on. So the second thing is to establish strategic linkages and networks, which again, the Metro Hackathon has been able to do, specifically with CLFI. I like to acknowledge the presence of Austronesian chapter here, who've been very supportive, and Ellie from CLFI, and also a fellow who's been really initiated the discussions with CLFI. So hopefully that discussion will continue. And all of this, at the end of the day, hopefully becomes a metropolitan toolkit that we can develop further and we can scale up. So let me go back to the Metro Hackathon. So that's just the context of the entire things that we've been trying to do in the last 5 months. So enter Metro Hackathon. As I mentioned earlier, let me skip some slides. Anyway, I shared this before. I'll be sharing actually to the National Convention tomorrow. So I prepared this slide also specifically for the National Convention, which I'll be presenting to 1,500 planners in the Philippines tomorrow. So as mentioned earlier, the Metro Hackathon, Danny, you can still hear me, right?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
Okay, so the idea for the Metro Hackathon is like a sub of the Brainshop, the Metropolitan Brainshop. If you can see the diagram, it's basically the day one. I've had some initial discussions with Pedro about it. I think there's a need for us to get our feet in the door of key decision makers. And I think that's what the Metro Hackathon is able to do. In our experience with Metro Cebu, as I mentioned earlier, originally our objective was to do a Brainshop, but resources, the physical distance, the social distancing face-to-face has not enabled us to do it. So long story short, we have the Metro Hackathon, we've prototyped it, we've done it since starting September, October, and yeah, I'll show you the video later. So basically, it's if you're familiar with idea hackathons, it's really usually for technology. I've been part of some of it. startups. We have a network of startups where we hack ideas and later on it becomes startup companies. I believe the metropolitan dynamics is as complex as starting a startup. So if you're able to combine the complexities of metropolitan with the process of a hackathon, I believe this becomes more more dynamic. So this is a typical image of a hackathon. So it's not too far from a Brainshops, but basically the Metro Hackathon is a step towards a further expanded Brainshops. For Cebu, hopefully later on, hopefully next year, after the elections, we'll be able to pull together a Brainshops, a full-blown Brainshops. But the benefit of what we're able to do right now is the Metro Hackathon has become a basis for putting together a proposal. Number one, putting together a proposal where we can submit and hopefully raise funds to put together a full-blown Brainshops. Number two, the coming elections to the Philippines will be next year. So it's a strategic move right now to move agenda into leaders, the metropolitan agenda, plant that seed so that after the elections we're able to hopefully get a foot in the door and get that and get a full-blown Brainshops that we really wish we can do. So as I mentioned earlier, again, thank you for Ellie for putting all of this together. So the Metro Hackathon started, it's basically a 5-day activity, high impact FGD spread over 3 months. So in between you have preparations, in between you're able to invite different key speakers and so forth, just to get the gist of what we need to specifically address and move in terms of that metropolitan complexity. So starting in September, we did some preparations. We put together the team. Highly appreciate also the team that was involved with the Kochi, with Bogbanaswar. They were part of it. They were really instrumental in also giving us some inputs. And then come October, we had the different FGDs, ending with a strategic vision, draft strategic vision, and then of course today I'll be presenting the the results of it. So let me take you to the video, which hopefully you can hear the sound. Danny, just let me know if you're unable to hear the sound.
It's all good.
Metro Cebu's role as a creative hub is to preserve, encompass, and broaden the industries from arts and cultural festivities that make up Metro Cebu. A creative hub on a small scale is a place that brings creative people together. However, on a metro scale, each city is considered as an individual that brings creativity. Cities have roles that range from industrial, trade routes, entry points, and capitals of industries ranging from furniture to infrastructural materials.
The International Metropolitan Fellowship Austronesia Chapter and Cebu Leads Foundation Incorporated organized the Metro Hackathon, a simulated Brainshops and capacity building for fellows and its partners to further develop and transform the metropolitan discipline in Metro Cebu. Idea Hackathon are normally where like-minded people come together to hack innovative ideas and build realistic tech solutions.
Focus group discussions on 5 thematic agendas were held to understand the importance of these considerations. What do we want to be in 30 years' time? Are institutions able to perform these objectives and address these challenges? And finally, what resources are needed to stand up to the task?
In the past applications, the traditional planning of radial and orbital systems has been proven to not work because of it is congestive. There is inequality where the core is the queen and all other cities in the periphery just work to support the queen.
To break the centrality, we must consider taking a reticular matrix approach where every location has the same accessibility. The chess grid could represent the cities, giving a chance for each city to reinvent itself and have a unique role in the metro. The primary goal of this approach is for Metro Cebu to be polycentric instead of monocentric. Each city and municipality will be collaborating and contributing to the general strategy of the metro for it to work.
With Cebu City as the king, an essential piece with limited movement but determines all the strategies. Its culture must be highly preserved and protected with its designation as a creative city of design. While Cebu City is currently an independent and autonomous government, this Metro Chess approach aims to unify the 13 cities and municipalities in an interlocal cooperation to jointly plan and implement development projects and initiatives.
One of which is the third MAC-10 bridge, the Cebu-Cordova Link Expressway. It is funded by the private sector and is scheduled to open by the first quarter of 2022, made possible by the partnership and an ordinance passed by the LGUs of Cebu City and Cordova. Cebu City took the global spotlight once again, as it was named one of the new creative cities by the UNESCO. This promotes cooperation with and among cities that have identified creativity as a strategic factor for sustainable urban development.
Pineapple Lab, a performance and exhibition space in Makati and home to the producers of Fringe Manila, has developed a program catering to the LGBT community. And Balayrat Creative City, that is cultural visitor economy and market, is continually growing. Now that Cebu City is also titled the Creative City of Design, it is now pushing to foster communities to be inclusive, invest and help startup artists, and train passionate, trusted, and influential leaders.
Is there a historical link of Cebu that has instigated it being a creative hub?
Cebu is always not only strategically located in the Philippines as the center of the Philippines, but if we will go back to history, even before the pre-colonial period, Cebu was already a trading center. So it's a long conversation, but then, of course, when we talk of art, it has something to do with architecture, architecture, interior, painting, even music, and so on and so forth. Even during the Spanish period, there was already the creative art, but in the form of zarzuela, theater, the other one, moro-moro. So it's more on stage acts, or it's more connected to fiestas and even church activities. During the American period and in the early 1900s, those were the times when Cebu, not only Cebu, but even in Metro Manila, arts was emphasized through theater. Maybe we can tap with not only with the known artists in Cebu, but we can tap the artisans. So in fact, in our cultural heritage mapping, because that is really the first step that we are doing when it comes to heritage conservation and development planning, we have to the artisans, the local artists in a certain locality, so that we can make use, or we can really exhaust, and we can really help them. Maybe we can tap these people. They're just there in the silently doing their craft.
I'm so hopeful, that our economy is going to be towards creative, because I think that's our only chance. We do not have agriculture. We cannot have industry in any big way, but I think it's really in creatives that we can really make a worldwide statement. What we lack here in Cebu is really collaborating all the efforts, integrating it into one initiative. How can we group this initiative that is being done here in Cebu? And we're glad that we see progress already headed by a Cebu Chamber. And how can we assist or somehow support the initiative that the Cebu Chamber have made? I will go back to what Architect Espina and even Ma'am Leila mentioned about the common goal. And I think that's where this FGD, the Metro Hackathon can provide. Maybe through this FGD's discussion, we can come up with what's really the common goal para dito, the rest of the initiative can align themselves, and possible the chamber can assist on the planning. But I think what we don't have right now is really the vision. The vision, what do we want? What do we want?
Metro Cebu has the second largest urban economy in the Philippines, with key businesses in banks, schools, and especially in IT parks, manufacturing, and tourism, which are the three major economic drivers. Metro Cebu prioritizes its investments in the areas of IT and BPOs, eco-tech products, and MICE are meetings, incentives, conferences, and exhibitions, among others.
The creative industry of Cebu accounts for 7% of their GDP, equating to $550 million in 2019, 1,300 firms, and 50,000 jobs. Government agencies propose laws on the development and safeguard of freelancers. They are even formulating policies and programs for the skills development of the creative workforce.
This was proven by private entities just like Tier 1 Entertainment. They give pro players an environment that is very suitable for training and competition, resulting in winning cash prizes, earnings, sponsors, and investors. Another example of this is the metaverse, a shared virtual world environment that people can access via the internet. A virtual world where you can transact using cryptocurrency, do concerts, buy fashionable clothing, and a virtual world that doesn't discriminate. The creative industry is Cebu's gold mine. Since most significant markets have gone online, more opportunities arise for digital content. Cebu requires the coordination of all its sectors to have a place in the global market, from private sectors, government, and non-government organizations, and from the creative communities. In the fast-moving digital age we live in, we must take this opportunity to innovate through the culture and arts to make our community a better place. Together, let us take this initiative for the Metro Cebu Vision 2015.
Okay, let me just close with three takeaways. So, so three takeaways. First takeaway is data is good, but you need willing sharers. We were able to get people from UNESCO. I have a friend who's the head of UNESCO, so she shared to us the potentials of Creative Hub of Cebu. We also have some through Ellie. He was able to contact University of San Carlos. So that's really very important. Number two, we need partnerships. This looks back to we need academic, private, government partnerships. So we're able to pull this off because I have a close tie with Mapua University, one of the top engineering schools in the Philippines. So they were able to help us put together the video, the logistics, and other aspects. Number three, you have to weave a story. Data is good, numbers is good, but usually really what drives decision makers is the story. What will basically benefit them? What will make get votes? What will get projects done? It's weaving that story of where this can go. So that's my pitch. I really imagine we have 200 fellows right now. Imagine having 500 fellows, and then imagine doing 40 metro hackathons, and imagine doing 20 Brainshops in a year. I think that's a snowball. Yeah, so that's my presentation. So to the next leadership of IMF, Danny Colombo, the current head of the IMF Sub-Sahara chapter. We support him, and may all of this continue, all of the works continue. For the next few weeks, we'll be doing some transitions because it's going to be Christmas next month. So we'll be meeting with the board, finalizing some stuff. But good news, we already have an official IMF, so we have the statutes from Pedro, we have the headquarters. So yeah, things are looking really promising, and yeah, that ends my presentation, and looking forward to go back to the Australasian chapter and yeah, make things happen also there. Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much. Danny, I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, Mark, thank you very much on the presentation on Metro Cebu Hackathon. I see there's some hands that are up. Pedro, can I hand over to you? I believe you have something to say.
Thank you so much, Danny. Thank you so much, Mark. Mine is a comment, a final comment before Mark closes down the event of 4 weeks of this World Congress. I must say that I think that this Congress has been very important event. First, because we are inventing a new way of sharing and producing knowledge, and this is the new use of the new technologies and the new way of communicating across the world and creating a united world culture. Why was this event so important? Well, I think it was the first one. And we are in the age of metropolises. So there are going to be many other events like this in the next century. And we are the first ones to have produced the first one. So it is important, it is very important. Second, because I think that development institutions are quite short-sighted on this area of metropolitan development because of several reasons. One, the way they are structured, this metropolitan knowledge requires knowledge about transport, environment, housing, and so on and so on. And they are blocked into silos. These international development institutions are blocked into silos, and they are not able to connect transversally all this knowledge. And we are, And so these multilaterals are full of technocrats caring about the administration, and they do not have the comprehensive vision that we required to address metropolises. And we can, as private sector, as professionals, civil servants, and academicians, academics, scholars, we can provide that transversal connection, which is extremely important to understand the complexity and the management of metropolises. We are ahead of the others, so that is very important. And we are ahead at least 25 years ahead of the other institutions. For instance, the metropolitan issue should have been dealt with in the Istanbul Habitat event that took place in 1996, and the event in 2016 in Quito did not even address the metropolitan issue. So we are at least 25 years ahead and maybe 40 years ahead. It is important because we can speak the truth. When you are in a public institutions, you must say what the institution wants you to say. I'm looking at you, Luis Eduardo, that now you are in your own habitat. You have to say what the institution. I have been in the World Bank for many years and in other institutions, and you are not free to speak what you really think. So we are here free to speak what we think, and that is extremely important to advance knowledge and to create that knowledge. So all these reasons make this event, this first World Congress, so important. I want to congratulate Mark for having the initiative, pushing for it, and really successfully taking it ahead. I think that has been a big push. Very much congratulations, Mark. I want to congratulate the chapter leaders and their teams. I see all of you there, and I love it. You have done a great job. You have done a huge task. I know all the work that this requires because I've organized many congresses in my life, and I know the extreme work that this requires. So really, congratulations to all of you. I'm not going to give the names one after the other because that will take too much time. So my wish, after the importance and the congratulations, my wish is not to see you next year, but to see you along this year, because we are preparing many events along this year, in Shiraz, in Amman, in Kinshasa, and even in Chennai next week. Madhivadani, one of our members, I don't see her today here, but one of our members next Friday is organizing an event on Chennai Metropolitan in the University of Chennai. So you see, the IMF will have many events along the year. So I hope not to see you next year, but to see you along the year in all these events and to share with you and to build up with you the knowledge and this world network of metropolitan knowledge, which is essential for the future of the world. Thank you very much for the time given to me and the occasion to work with you in this event. And to you, Mark, for the closing words.
Thank you very much, Pedro. Before we move on to Mark, we do have another contribution from Milena Suarez. Milena, who was our very first president. So I'd like to hand over to you, Milena.
Okay, thank you very much, Danny. So I really want to congratulate Mark. I remember when I finished my period as a president and I made a list of tasks for the next president, and definitely Mark he exceed the role, the interaction. We saw along this period a lot events. He did this new invention of the Metro Hackathon, which I think is a very powerful tool to boost all the interactions with all the professionals, government, academics. So he did a great job doing the task for the academic task force now. So thank you, Mark, for all this.
Milena? Hi, Milena. Okay, it seems we have lost Milena.
Yes.
Yes, it seems we have lost Milena. So we will move forward. And I think before I hand over to Mark for the closing address and to close the Congress, on behalf of the IMF Arabic chapter and the IMF Sub-Saharan chapter, we'd like to thank everybody for attending, not only for today, but throughout the last 4 or 5 weeks. And thank you very much for your participation, for your contributions, and to all the speakers as well who presented today. Thank you very much for your time. So Mark, over to you.
Thank you, Danny. And yeah, thank you to everyone. Well, before I forget, Mertz, are you there? Can you take? Are you able to take the group photo? While
Yes, yes.
yes, okay, and also Danny. Okay, so I agree with Pedro. Definitely, I will not say I'll see you next year, but yeah, I'm here to continue until December 31, even if it's a holiday. um, I really appreciate everyone's support, everyone working together, and I really enjoy. The reason I really give my time here in the IMF because for one, I learn a lot. Number two, I like to be with passionate people, and number three, it's a global audience. If the world is global and having to talk with you all, I'm in the Philippines right now in my room. It's almost 12 midnight here. Everyone is sleeping, and I get to talk to everyone in different continents. So that's really magical, I believe. So, um, without further ado, I think I've said everything, and I just really wish that in the next 3 to 5 years, we will be a force to reckon with. I go back to our challenges here in the Philippines. I really believe that having a powerful organization, we have IMF, will really be helpful for us all, even individually, even as a group. With our practice, we'll all benefit. So I really encourage everyone to contribute your time. It's really giving your time, and then you get the return. It will really just come back. So with that, Mertz, are you able to take the photo, and Danny? So I'd like to request everyone to open your videos so we can see our faces and say our um, goodbyes properly. Mertz, are you ready to take the photo? Or Danny?
Yes, can I
Yes.
ask everybody to switch on their cameras?
Yeah.
Can you please switch on your camera and give us your best smile, please?
Yeah, so best smile, and then Danny and Mertz will count 1 to 3, and then we'll take a nice photo. This is remember, this is the first IMF Congress of many, so you're pioneers. We are all pioneers here, and it's good to have a nice smile in the photo.
Okay.
So are we done? Okay, good.
1, 2, 3. Give us your smile. Thank you very much. And
Okay.
another one. Give us your best smile again. 1, 2, 3. And thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Good day. See you again soon, and keep safe. And I hereby officially close the IMF Congress. Thank you.